I'm not someone who believes in ghosts, spirits, or anything paranormal. Never have. I've always thought those stories were overblown or just the imagination running wild. But what happened to me a few months ago at my grandparents' old house still makes me question that. I don't know if I'll ever get a clear answer, but I can tell you exactly what I experienced, and I'll let you decide. A couple of years ago, my dad's parents passed away. Their house had been in the family for decades, and now my dad, busy with work, wanted to put it up for sale. He asked me to come home during my college holiday break to help pack up their things, move out their stuff, and get the house ready for listing. It seemed like a normal chore, nothing more than sorting old boxes and memories. I didn't think twice. It was Friday when I drove back home. My dad had to go to work, and my mom helped me gather a few things for the night. She packed me some snacks and reminded me to be careful since the house was old and empty. The plan was simple: spend the night at the house, pack whatever I could, and then in the morning, my parents would come over to help with the bigger items and call a moving company to take everything away. The house itself was the typical two-story suburban home with creaking floors and walls that moaned with age. I spent most of the day hauling boxes, wiping down shelves, and sorting through old photographs and belongings. By mid-afternoon, I was tired, frustrated, and starving, so I decided to order pizza through DoorDash. Around 6 in the evening, the delivery arrived. I sat on the living room couch, unboxed the pizza, and scrolled through my phone while eating. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. That's when I first noticed it, the creaking upstairs. It was subtle, almost like someone walking slowly across the old wooden floors. I froze for a second, listening. My first thought was that it was just the house settling. I shook my head, muttered to myself that it was nothing, and went back to eating and scrolling. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't completely alone. A little while later, the sound came again. This time it was louder, followed by a thump, like something heavy hitting the floor. My stomach dropped. I set my phone down and rushed upstairs, fully expecting someone to be there, or at least to find some logical explanation. The upstairs hallway was empty. My first instinct was relief, but then my eyes landed on something that froze me in place. My grandmother's sewing kit box. I had packed it earlier in the day into one of the moving boxes. Now it was on the floor, lid slightly open, as if it had been removed and dropped. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and told myself I must have misremembered. I picked it up, put it back in the box, and carried on downstairs, trying to convince myself it was just a coincidence or that I had set it aside earlier and forgotten. The evening passed without incident, and by 10 o'clock, I decided to get some sleep. I went upstairs to one of the bedrooms, turned on a lamp, and tried to get comfortable. About 30 minutes after drifting off, I woke to the unmistakable sound of creaking floors. This time it was downstairs, footsteps slowly making their way up the stairs, deliberate and heavy. My heart pounded. Someone had to be in the house. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and tiptoed to the top of the stairs to peek. Nothing. Not a shadow, not a movement. Just silence. I spent the next half hour convincing myself it was my imagination, the house settling, or a stray branch brushing against the exterior walls. I tried to go back to sleep, but as soon as I laid down, it started again. The same slow, deliberate footsteps climbing the stairs. My hands were shaking. I got up once more, checked every room, every hallway, every closet. The house was empty. By now, my skepticism was fighting with a creeping dread I hadn't felt before. Was this a burglar? Was someone hiding in the house waiting for me? Or was it something else? I refused to admit to myself that it could be paranormal. I kept telling myself, Chris, you don't believe in that stuff. Finally, I made a decision. I would drown it out. I grabbed my headphones, plugged them in, turned the volume up, and played music until my mind could focus on something else. Slowly, I drifted into a restless sleep. Morning came, and with it, my parents. My dad helped me move larger furniture. My mom assisted with fragile items. We had hired a moving company, so most of the heavy lifting was handled professionally. While I was helping move boxes, my mom suddenly called me over. "Oh, look, you forgot this," she said, holding up the familiar sewing kit box. I froze. The same box, the one I had packed the night before and that had mysteriously fallen to the floor. I looked around, confused. "Where did you find it?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "In the living room," she said. I forced a laugh, hiding the knot in my stomach. Must have been overlooked. But it wasn't overlooked. I had packed that box myself, double-checked it, and set it aside. Yet here it was again, downstairs, seemingly moved on its own. I didn't tell my parents about the footsteps, the noises, or the first time the box had fallen. I couldn't explain it, and frankly, I wasn't sure I wanted to admit how unnerved I had felt. The rest of the day passed in a blur of boxes, furniture, and memories. Everything was moved to a storage unit, and by the evening, the house was empty. I drove back home with my parents, quiet in the car, lost in thought. Back at college, I couldn't shake the memory of that night. I tried to rationalize it. Old houses make noise. Boxes get moved by gravity. My mind was tired and hungry. But even as I told myself these explanations, a part of me couldn't ignore what I had seen and heard. The creaking footsteps weren't random. They had direction and purpose. The sewing kit box didn't just fall by accident. It was as if something had deliberately taken it out and dropped it. I still don't know what really happened that night. I don't know if it was a trick of the mind, an old house settling in weird ways, or something I can't explain. My grandparents' house has been sold now, so I'll never go back to check. And I still don't fully believe in ghosts or spirits. But that night, the house felt alive, watching, waiting. And that sewing kit box, inexplicably moving on its own, is something I'll never forget. I tell this story not to scare people with fantasies, but because it genuinely happened to me. Every detail is real. Every creak, every thump, every moment of confusion and fear. And even now, thinking back on it, I feel a chill creep up my spine. Maybe it was just an old house. Maybe it was my imagination, but if it wasn't, then I have to admit, at least a little, that the world might hold things I can't explain. And that thought alone is unsettling enough.